All right, and we're back. It is COMP3025, and it's winter 2016, and it's week 9, part 1, and we're talking about how to create a second screen for our app, right? Second screen. So again, I've just kicked off a blank app, and if you notice, my application says just my application, right? So I've just gone in and created a my application with version 6 as the default. On the left, if you notice, we have our project layout, and again, you could certainly skip from, notice on the top left corner over here, inside of our Solution Explorer equivalent. If you're a Visual Studio person, this would be your Solution Explorer, right? On the left, there's this little drop down. You could certainly choose Android is what we're looking at from a project perspective. But if I went to project files, just for 1 second, project files, I'd actually see the project layout. This is my project layout, like I'm looking at right now, right? And everything seems to be the exact same. If I go from project files, as an example, I can look at project, right? And here, there's a little bit, it's slightly different looking. Notice that I get the left-hand side. So there's different ones. There's project, and then here, the other option is if I went from project to Android. If I went to Android, there's another one. There's the Android that we know and love. This is the one we want to kind of look at, okay? So this is not what your operating system will look like, but this is what our project is going to look like. And if you notice that it has several folders, like we talked about before, one of them is the manifest folder. And the manifest folder has, in olden days, what we saw here actually was that there's a visual layout component attached to this. If you remember, I don't know, for people who did, I think we did some stuff with Advanced Java. For people who were with me on Advanced Java, we used Eclipse, and with Eclipse, we actually saw an actual UI here, not just an XML document, right? The problem with the UI that was available in Eclipse was it was buggy. Like, it was really buggy. Like, you know, you move your mouse over the UI and all of a sudden, bam, it would just disappear, right? Or something weird, right? So obviously that's why people are moving closer towards this whole Android Studio thing. So here, the things to note are the following. You have your icon, and you have your, what says Mipmap and IC Launcher. That's your icon, that's your launcher icon for your Android application, right? So here under layout, you have menu, and then there's Mipmap, and here's your IC launcher, right? IC launcher. So this is where your icon is. If I was to look in there, right, you can see that this is what the Android icon is going to look like when it launches, and there's different versions of it. And what Android is smart enough to understand is, depending on the DPI of your machine, right? How dense the pixel density is for your device, it's going to choose different icons, right? So that's one of the things we talked about before. Same thing with Drawable. Anything that you put in Drawable as a resource, you can create different versions of it. It's not that difficult to create. That kind of support different levels of DPI, right? Okay, so just to notice that. So just looking at this whole manifest thing, we've kind of talked about it briefly. I want to go over it a little bit more. Under values, you have, remember what we talked about before, some XML values here for strings and stuff, and dimensions. So here's dimens, here's our strings, and if I looked at the strings XML, you notice that there's things like my application, which is the app name. And under action settings, these are all the hard-coded strings that are part of your application. And the typical workflow is you never hard-code anything in Android, right? Because you want to make it so that it's locale specific, right? That's the whole idea behind it all, right? Sorry, guys. I don't want me to interrupt you guys, but so that's what we do here. So we've done it before a couple times. And notice even for dimens has this dimensions, and we have 16 DP. We've been using DP. So when I use DP, it's device pixels, right? That's really what this stands for, right? Device pixels. And depending on the device, you know, it doesn't care about real pixels, PX. If we're not using a PX unit of measure, because each device is going to have different DPI, and therefore if you view actual pixels, it would be different for different devices. It would actually not look well. There's also one more as an override. This is actually an override. So you have your dimensions, But as you have a demens.xml, and notice that our margins are different for for different kinds of devices, and devices that, as an example, have more than 820 dp available width, right? That means if you have some kind of tablet device, right, you have a larger width for your tablet, or if you change orientations for your phone and you move from a portrait to a landscape orientation, your phone may have more than 820 dps of available bandwidth. And the reason for that is because of the new phones. Like if you have a Galaxy, I don't know, S6, as an example, you may qualify for that if you just move your phone into that orientation, right? So if you do, then this other one here, this Demens XML, where it says width of 820 dp, will override all the settings inside of your Demens XML. So if you put the same value over here, you can change whatever this pixel is for margins and everything else to override your layout. That's what it's for, right? So this is how they kind of do responsive design in Android. You can accomplish different layouts by putting your demens in there. There's one more unit of measure called SP, right? So we talked about DP, device-specific pixels, and there's SP, and usually we use SP, which is like a DP, for things like your font sizes. So anything with text or font, we use SP. Again, it's almost like, think about this like as in responsive font size stuff. And DP for any kind of layout, right? So if I want to layout stuff, hold on, and I want to have margin and padding and all those kind of things, I'm going to use DP. If I want to have a font size, I'm going to use SP, yeah.
SP stands for?
It's very similar. I forget what I'm sorry, I forgot this morning. I'm trying to think. It's not device pixels. It's like device independent pixels. That's what DP stands for. SP is very similar to that, right?
So using that override file, would typical work, would someone develop for a phone and then go test it on a tablet and then write
Yes.
the second one
Yes.
and say, okay, here's all the sizes I need to override for
Right, 'cause
tablets?
they can have different layouts, right? Like for example, our layout right now, we have only one layout. We have content main, and content main has two parts to it. There's the visual component, and there's also the text version. And the text version, the component on the text side, what you have is a relative layout, and inside your relative layout, you have a text view, which is just a text, a label more than anything else, right? That's what it comes with from default, right? But if you notice, it's all these are hard-coded values, and this is bad. Padding bottom 16 dp, padding left, and so on. What these should have, right? You should be using the @sign, right? @demens, and then specify the file type. So even for this, it's wrong. Like it's not really done right because. And this is just from a layout perspective. If you notice, the padding bottom, padding left, padding right, and padding top are where the padding is in our entire layout, right? And you should probably change this because 16 dp may not be right for a device that's wider. You may want to add more padding or less padding or whatever it's going to be, right? So that's what these things do. All these XML documents, they're really useful. And one of the main useful ones is this Androidmanifest Xml. This tells us not only what my application name is going to be, and notice we use the application launcher. Anytime you see an @something, @mitmap basically says, hey, here's a resource. If I use my @decorator, I'm indicating it's a resource. @style, again, if I go back down here, you can see that there's a styles XML. And again, there's two. There's one that's styles XML. These are for all of our colors, right? So I've got my primary color. That's interesting here. I can change my colors and my accents and everything in here. And remember that Android uses material design, right? That the new stuff from Google, right? So I can change these primary colors, but it points to, again, another resource, @color. And if I look to the left over here, you can see that I have a colors resource for this, and it has all the colors for my primary color, primary dark, and my accent, right? So all the colors for your application are right in here, right? And if you have trouble figuring out what your color scheme is going to be and you want to kind of match it up to something that's half decent, there is a really cool website that we can go to. Let's see if I can pull it up, right? No, there's actually something really much better for this, for material design. I think it's color for the material design side. If I go to my color palette, right? Here's my color palette, right? For all the colors that come with for this, but there's also, you can actually, it talks about how to create a perfect palette here if you follow the videos, right? But there's also an actual, let's see if I can pull this up. There's one called materialpalette.com. Go to materialpalette.com, please. So let's lay out our application a little bit differently today, right? And I want to change my color themes. And this is what it says. Take a look. It says pick 2 colors, right? So let's say, for example, I want my color scheme to have, I don't know, a deep orange and this orange, right, as a color theme. Now you can see a preview of what your palette's going to look like, right? I'm just saying, if you want to make it a little different. And you can see what the primary colors are and what the secondary color would be. Here's your dark color, here's your primary, here's your light primary, here's your text icons. It gives you everything you need. Here's your accent color. It gives you everything you need to design your application and to put those defaults into your color XML sheet. This is why it's better, specifically for Android, right? Not that I don't like colored.adobe.com or whatever it is, but it used to be Adobe Cooler. But it doesn't. This is a better because it's Android specific. All right. So here's your first task: pick a couple of colors and change your color inside your XML document to match these things up. I'm going to pick these 2 weird colors, deep orange and orange, right? Just because I want to make mine look a little different, right? So my dark color, here's my dark color. And by the way, it says, here's my palette, and I can download it. If I click download, right, I can download it in CSS, SAS, whatever, even XML. And if I download my XML, here's my colors, deep orange and orange, right? I'm going to put this on my desktop here for a second. And let's just download this thing, right? If I was to open this thing up, and I don't know what's going to open up. I think it's going to open up. No, I don't want that. Skip bundle. It's going to open up my Xcode. No, not Xcode. Now, mine's pretty fast, but we don't want that to happen. We'll use something else to download this stuff. Here, I'll open this up with brackets. We'll open up with brackets. Here's brackets. And notice that I have all my colors, right? So here's my primary color and all this kind of stuff. Well, I can use some of this information, right? I can actually take this entire palette just like it is. And if I go back to our Android Studio for a second, right? Notice how I have colored name and my primary and so on, color primary, right? The only thing that it's a little different, and this is what I would have liked it differently, if it matched up with my Android names a little bit. That's one thing that I didn't like, right? But more or less, I can say, okay, here's my color primary. I'm just going to take this color, copy it, and then go over here, paste it, right? And I'm going to say primary color primary dark. Here's my dark color. Oops. Copy it, and then go over here and paste it. Go and change your color theme, and here's my color accents. Take this one here, and then paste that in there. And I can add the other ones in there too, right? Because if I go with the same idea, like primary light, I can do the same thing. I can actually type it in. So if I say, well, color, right? Here's my color, and if I say name is equal to color primary light, just going along with what it looks like, right? I can define a color primary light in here. Just don't want to use the entire palette by just typing in the new object here inside XML, right? And I'll keep going. If I was like a, what was that? Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just copy paste?
I can't, because notice how this doesn't match with this in terms of name. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, you don't have to, but then it means you have to change it in your code, right? So why would I do that? I want to keep it. It's already there in my code. I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to. Same thing with primary text. I'm just going to do the same thing. So here's what I'm doing here. Color. And then I'm going to say name is equal to. I'm going to say primary text. So again, I'm going to follow the same thing. So color primary text, right? And if I'm guaranteeing you that it'll change some of the stuff if I follow this way of doing things. So that's one thing I really do like about Android, the fact that, it's just a document that we can access. Same thing with icons and divider. So I'm not sure if those have to be, I'm going to kind of keep those as is. Not sure if that's going to make a difference for now, but I'm just going to copy these 2 values, and I can modify those later. These ones, I don't know what they're supposed to be, I forget. So save. So if I go back down to my manifest now that I've got my color scheme, notice how I've got all the colors in here, and it gives you a preview on the left-hand side in the gutter of all the color scheme. It's pretty cool. I can go back to my activity or my content main, right? And now you can notice that everything is updated, right? So I got my colors and everything else. My whole theme is updated in terms of how it's going to look. So that's one. So color themes, really, really cool. And again, if I go back to my Androidmanifest, that's where I got the idea, because it says, here's my style, my icon, my theme is whatever my app theme is. I can change my app theme. Let's leave it alone for now. And same thing with my my application. My label says my application, right? But we don't want that, right? We want to use a string, an @string like this. Let's make some of those things. So my application is not going to be my application. We're just going to call this thing like, you know, like maybe a two-screen demo. That's what we're going to say. I'm going to call it two-screen demo. And for that, I'm going to need another XML document, strings, right? And I can enter it here by hand. So I can do something like string, where my name is equal to, as an attribute, is equal to no, you know, kind of like a two-screen demo. So two-screen demo, I can do that. That's what I want it to be, and then I can just type in what it is. So two-screen demo, two-screen demo.
If you actually click my application in Manifest Xml.
I know. I want you to do it by hand. That's the idea, right? Thank you for that, though. So, so if you notice, like where it says my application and settings, the value goes in here, right? So two-screen demo would go in here, because this is what the value is going to be, just like it would be on an HTML document, two-screen demo, right? So now I want to use this two-screen demo string value here in my my XML, my manifest. Go back here. How do I do that? I don't want it to say my application. Well, I can start typing. If I just take away if I double click this app name, I can just change this to start typing, right? And if I say two-screen demo, it'll come up. Look, that's part of my thing. And once I've typed it into my XML document, the IntelliSense will come up so I can actually choose it, right? So two-screen demo. So save. And if I go back to my content main to see what it looks like, right, then that's what's going to happen. We're going to see that as what's going to come up, right? Our application name. All right, hello world. Again, this is something that we're seeing that has its own string there. And if I go back to my strings XML, there isn't anything in there that says hello world. That means hello world has been hand coded. We don't want that. So let's add in something like a welcome message. So we'll say, I don't know, string name, right? String name is equal to, you know, kind of like welcome, and then our welcome message is just going to be welcome. Okay, so we've got that coded in there. Now, if I want to change that, it's going to be the @string, but that is going to be inside of my content main. So I'm going to just double click on my content main really quickly. And what I want to see is on the design view only, if I click on hello world, right? And if I look at my my string that's down here, it says hello world. Here's my text for hello world. All I've done is double clicked on my design or clicked on my design. Again, I can do the same thing. I can start typing @string, right? And then slash whatever it's going to be. If I click these ellipses, actually, it'll allow me to pick which one I want. So here's welcome. And it'll put that in @string /welcome. And then that's the way we do it. Anything that has @ in front of it, that @ decorator, points to some kind of resource file. That's all it is. That's what it means for you guys, right? So there's my @string. And if I want to go by text color, hey, I got a text color that I can use. I just kind of indicated what that would be in my colors, right? So if I go click on the text color, I could certainly do this, right? I can also choose from a project perspective. Here's all I got my primary color, secondary color, my accents, all these different things. I also have color primary, and I just define color primary text. That's the one I want to use. So I'm going to click on that and press OK. So my color text is the same. My dimens, I mean, if I want to change the size of my object, so for example, I want to change my font size. Again, we want to go with the prescribed way of doing things. So I want to, if I click on my welcome again, I have my text alignment, my text color, which I've chosen a color primary text. That's what we just made. And I have my text size, but I don't have a text size in here. I want to make it so that it's 40 SP, right? But I don't have one defined. So I'm going to click on these ellipses over here, and I want to click new resource because I don't have that. Another way to do it, new dimensional value or dimension value here. And then I'm going to declare it. I'm going to say the dimension name is going to be app text. Here's my resource name, app_text. And then my resource value is going to be 40 SP, right? 40 SP. And I'm going to click OK. Notice that now it's 40 SP is my welcome, right? Think about it as pixel size, but for dimensions, to be responsive, so it can work on different things. Because I have a relative layout, this should be all, by the way, review, right?
How did I make new dimension?
Okay, I'm going to go back in here to show you. So click on welcome for a second. There's two ways of doing it. You can type it in like we normally do, or I can go into my text size, right? And there's a little ellipses on the right, and I can just click new resource. Click new resource in there, and then just name what it's going to be. Okay, so that's one. Notice that if I have my text itself, because here's our component tree, this is similar to your outliner in other applications or whatever, or a hierarchy if you're using things. You can see that the relative layout right now, by the way, if you see what it's called, there's no ID for this relative layout. And I can add a new ID, right, by specifying plus ID, right? I'm going to specify new, I can type it in. Let's say, for example, I want this relative layout to be called I don't know, demo relative layout. So I'll say demo relative layout. I just type that in, just press enter, right? That's what the ID is here, right? But if I look at my XML, because I'm looking at content main for my XML, so if I look at my text version, and if I see my relative layout here as an example, I've added in an ID, and it says @ remember, the @ is a resource indicator, @ plus ID. And you can do that manually by typing any ID to anything. So for example, let's say our text view, there's no ID for my text view, so it has a default ID of text view, but I want to give it my own ID. I can actually start typing my values manually. Let's add a space in here. So here's my space in my XML. And inside my XML, I'm going to start typing Android. Watch this now. So Android, right, and then colon, and then @ plus ID, right, is the same thing I'm going to type in just like we have up there, right? Or actually ID equals, so I got to do ID first. ID equals to, and then @ plus ID, and then / and the name of the ID of your text view. So we're going to call it welcome text view. So we'll say welcome text view, right? And then when we do this, right, notice how this all has to be in quotes, because if you don't, it doesn't look right. And if it's red or some other color, it has to be green, right? That's a good indicator of how it's not right. And I can close off this particular thing. See, these two values here, this text box right here, if you notice, it's all for the text view. Anything that's between these two opening tags and closing tags. Makes sense? Just like you would normally do any kind of thing. Okay. I just wanted to show you some of this stuff because so you know how to move things around or whatever, right? Now notice how, no matter what I do here, right, I can add in different elements. If I want to add in, so I've got a welcome tag, notice that I don't have any kind of layout, anything, right? But if I go back to the design side, and if I click on welcome, and then I reposition welcome, let's say, for example, I reposition it by moving it to the middle, right? And if I do that, and if I go back to my text field, it's added in a couple more values here. Let's take a look. It says layout align parent top and layout center horizontal, right? So I can add these values in, and there's some built-in values in Android. For example, let's say, for example, I want it to be a certain amount of padding from the left and to the right. I want some, minimum amount of padding from the left to the right. I can actually start typing that in. And if you don't know what the value is, I can say Android layout, right? And take a look what it says. It gives me some options. Align end, right? And I want to say, example, align start. So here's align start. That's align start and end, by the way, you use them as instead of left and right for to support readers, to support different kinds of layouts. For example, right now we read from left to right. If you want to support a right to left layout, if you're going to move this to some Asian country or something like that, or another country that uses a different form of writing, then you also use align start and align end in addition to align left and align right. right? That's what it does. So I'm going to say align start, right? And we have a value, right, of, so it's aligned to the start, and notice we have this value. I can certainly try and position one thing. So look, it says demo relative layout or action settings. I could put in a hard-coded value. So let's say, for example, I say something like, I don't know, 10 BP. I could put that in there as a value, but that's a problem. Red, right? It says, and look, it says cannot resolve symbol 10 dp. Why? Because there isn't anything in there that makes any sense. Even this is, if you notice, padding top and padding right. We actually don't need this. In other words, we can do something like this. So if I say something like align start, and if I don't have a value, right? So equals to true is what they're looking for. If that's the thing that they want. So align start is equal to true doesn't seem to be to make any sense, right? So how do I do that? How do I figure out what my alignments are? And if I don't have that, well, the great thing is, if I say override resource and other configurations, I could do that. But I want to get some information about my alignment thing, and this would kill. By the way, this would break my my layout if I made a mistake over here, right? Okay, so let's try and figure this out. See, without knowing anything, if I go layout and then align to parent start, aligning parent start, align parent start. So there it is, and then here's my values, true or false. Right, so that's what I want. So now notice how it moved it to the left. Align parent start. I didn't want to do align parent start. I want to do align parent top, right? That means the top of the layout, no matter where it is, right? So align parent start means it turns onto the left, and it overrides just like any CSS or any XML. Whatever is the latest one, the latest layout over here would change what's done before, right? So if I move these things around, let's say I move this one from here, from an XML perspective, and I move it down to here and put it in, right, as an example. And once I update my layout, oops, without breaking it, right, then what it should do theoretically is align to the middle. But take a look, it's still hugging the left-hand side because align parent top, align parent start. Start means for readers, right? If I went like this, Android layout, align left, here's align left, and then here's my options, align left, right? Align left of what? Right, that's what it's asking for. Align left of my toolbar, align left of my fab icon, align left of my action settings, align left of what? What am I aligning left of, right? Maybe I'm align left parent, right? So that's not what I wanted, right? So if I go layout, align parent left, and then it gives me my values, true or false. So true or false. That's equivalent to align start, right? So if I'm going to align my welcome to the left, these two things I'd have to put in there. If I get rid of them, again, you can see how it's going to move it immediately right to the middle again. Align parent top. So one overrides the other. Okay, so just from a layout perspective, what if I do something like this? So I've aligned it to the top, right? But I want to pull this down to the middle, and I have to go back to design mode for a second. And if I pull this down a little bit, it's not the whole way down, just a little bit down, like to here. All right, so I pulled it down to a little bit lower than what I had it in the top. If I go back to my text to see what it does, well, it's added in another value, a layout margin top 42 dp, right? So that's what it does. So if I want to layout from, if I say layout margin left, let's go with that. So I want to say my layout margin left is 10 dp, right? Let's see if I can do that. Android layout, align, sorry, margin left, right? Margin left, and I want to just put in a hard-coded value like 10 dp, right? I can put that in, and then save it. I don't see any value here. Why? Because we've got our center horizontal in, right? And let's just get rid of this center horizontal, right? And you can see now that it's going to move to the left wherever I want it with a margin of 10 dp, right? Yes?
So how do you know which one is going to override which one? Is that center?
The bigger ones, the center and all those layout, the different layout ones, see how the align parent left overrode align horizontal or whatever? You know what? If there's a hierarchy that's listed actually in the API that tells you which one it is, which one will override the other one. But a lot of it's done like how I'm doing it. Basically, I'm trying to align things to the left or right. Now, if I go back to design view for a second, notice how there's a couple of arrows. I have this arrow that goes here, and I don't have an arrow that goes on the left-hand side, right? And there's a couple of problems, right? here's my layout margin, and this is a hint of what you can do. I can actually lay it all out in here, and then it'll actually write the XML over there, right? To me, the visual thing is neat to use, but you should also know about the XML version just in case you want to do things by hand, and there's a little bit more control when we do things by hand. Okay? Yes, that's what I was going to say. So really, what I want to do is, for example, if I want to say welcome, my welcome left and welcome top margin, or margin left. Let's say I want to put all margin lefts at 10 dp, everything. I want to have margin for everything as 10 dp around the entire hole. And this would be a new dimens that I want to kind of put in together. So I would kind of right-click here and go to new resource. Right, here's my new resource value, and then say, let's say app margin left or something like that. Probably put it in there, margin left, and that would put in that 10 dp value. Right, and press OK. And then the same thing goes with my top. Maybe 42 isn't the right number, maybe because 42 is like a whole bunch down. I want to make it only be, let's say 20 down, right? So app margin top would be the one I want to add in there. So I'm going to kind of go in there and expand that resource. New dimensional value, app margin, I'm just making this up, app margin top, right? And we're going to use, 20 dp for that, 20. And again, you can kind of create, once we keep doing this, you're going to create your margins and everything else, so you can reuse these things, right? And the same thing goes with the right. Notice I can actually put in a right margin look like. So let's say at the minimum, I want my app margin right to be my like equivalent to my app margin left, but let's just put that in. So I'm going to say here, resource, new dimensional value, and I want to say something like app margin right, and my default value is going to be 10 dp. Because that's what I'm using, right? But notice that it doesn't draw the line, right? There's a couple reasons why. We've made it so if I look at my text value here, my text value, it says align parent top, right? Align margin top, align margin left, and margin right. But it's not specifically saying that I should align this thing to the right, or how much more I have to align it to the right, or so on. And that's why it's doing what it's doing. All right. If I actually pull this value over, it'll override some of these dimensions that I've got in here. Right, so we don't want that. We want actually to type in what it should be for our text value, right? So we've got our welcome, and now depending on when we switch it, notice how here on the top right, in the middle where it says go to next state, I can change it from. I can just by clicking the button, I can switch from portrait to landscape, and you can see that just by clicking this button, I can give you the different view screens. What it's going to look like on portrait, what's going to look like on landscape, and so on. It'll give us that value. All right, so just again, this is a review of how the layout system works. Well, further to this, right, notice how I have my welcome text view, and my relative layout is my demo relative layout. That's what it's called, right? One thing to note also is that I can layer different layouts one within the other, and you probably had to do this when you made your calculator, right? So how do I do that kind of stuff? Well, if you notice on the left, I have a series of different layouts, frame layout, linear layout, and so on. Now, what do these things mean? Linear layout horizontal means I have a horizontal stack. So things are stacked one next to each other. And if you see the little symbol here, it tells you that, like almost like columns, right? Horizontal stack. And then there's a linear layout with a vertical. So a vertical layout was one next to each other, right? So one on top of the other. That's what the linear layout is. So if I want to make sure that there's more than one, I want to have a relative layout, and inside my relative layout, I want to have a linear layout. You can certainly do that, right? But that doesn't make any sense. How do I change a demo relative layout to a linear layout? Well, if I right-click, in the old way we could do it, I could just go to on the old style. I can change my relative layout to my my linear layout, and I want to make a linear layout so that it stacks one on top of the other. So that's going to be, which one is it going to be? The linear layout vertical with orientation vertical, right? So I want to go back to my XML. This is the easiest way. That's why I want you to learn XML. And notice how relative layout is here, right? Let's change relative layout to linear layout. Let's just type linear layout over relative layout here, like this. So linear layout, there it is. I'll start typing. Right, so here's my linear layout. And it says start tag has wrong closing tag. Well, yeah, because my linear layout has to have a closing tag that makes sense, right? Because it's got no closing tag, right? That's the closing tag that you need. So linear layout, got the closing tag down here. And what I want to do with this one is I need to specify an orientation, right? So, and I want to do that pretty much right at the beginning. So just at the bottom, at the beginning, I can do something like this. I can say Android. If I start typing orientation, right, and I can type in horizontal or vertical, and again, I want to choose the vertical orientation. There it is. Okay, let's see if how that rolls, right? If I go back to my design view, well, hold on a second. What happened to my my text box? It's not there, right? How come it's not there? It's here, right? Here's my text view, right? And then, but it's gone. Well, why? What I've done is I've ended it off here. This is not what I wanted. I need to change this to linear layout down here, which is what's going to fix the problem. Linear layout has to be on the bottom and the top. This is the whole container, right? And now my welcome comes back. If I go back to design, I can see that I have my linear layout, and inside my linear layout, I have a welcome text. Let's put another text box in there. So I'm going to take another, text field, the text view. So plain text view. Drop that in here as an example. And notice how if I put it in, right, it's going to come underneath. Here's where it's going to be, and it stacks one on top of the other, right? Why? Because I'm using, well, look, it says demo linear relative layout, but inside of it, it says linear layout because I haven't changed my name, right? Demo relative layout is what I called the linear layout, and I just renamed changed it from linear layout to, or relative layout to linear layout, so I have to change my ID to match that. So let's change that to demo linear layout, so we're not confused, linear layout. There we go, demo linear layout. Go back to this. So it says demo linear layout, and one is stacked upon the other one. Here's my regular text view, right? I want to use the same styles, right? So I want to kind of go down to my my style that I have for it. So my text style and everything else. New text obviously is not what I want, but my text color, I want to specify my app text color. So I'm going to go to project, and I'm going to say color primary text. That's what it is. Press OK. So I need that to match the color. And I also want my my text size. We'll call this, from a text size perspective. Notice that there's some built-in features: medium, small, material, blah blah, whatever. I can pick one of these as well. I can also go pick app text, which I've already defined. I might as well make it 40 as well, just for this demo. There it is, app text. And let's change our what it says in the text again by clicking the new resource, which is a new string value, and we're going to say, enter your name or something like that. Enter your name. Enter name, which is going to be the resource value is going to be enter your name. Enter your name. A little bit bigger, if that's okay. Enter your name. And now we need some kind of text box that goes underneath it. Now let's take a look at what happens here. Notice that even though I've put enter your name, my welcome seems to stick out on the left a little bit more. Why? Because I've got a DP a margin for this object of 10 dp, right? And here's padding, right? Notice that padding is here, but my margin is really what I want in here. So if I want to go and look for that, so margins is what I want in there, right? I want to have the same layout for margin. So here's my layout margin, and I could specify all as 10 dp, or I can specify my left as my app specific margin left, right? So app margin left, I think is what I called it. Here's my app margin left. There we go. So there's my app. So it's aligned nicely, one on top of the other. Okay. I know it's not exciting stuff, but the idea here is alignment and everything else. It'll stack. Every time I pull in an additional one, one thing I'm missing is my name of my object, right? Because I want to put in its own ID. So I want to kind of go down where it says ID, where it says text view. That doesn't make any sense. I want to name my text view something like name text view, or name, whatever, something with name in it. So name text view. So I can always meet it. I can always access it from the activity. All right, so I'll save this. And if I go back to my XML, you can see that now I have two text views. I have one up here, and I have one in here, and they're both inside of my linear layout, object, which is my container. Again, I can have one layout within the other, right? So I can almost create a faux grid by putting a horizontal layout inside of a linear layout. I could do that too. So if I want both objects to be next to each other, so example of that would be your buttons. So I want two buttons, and I want them to be aligned horizontally, one next to the other. But I already have a linear layout, and I want my buttons to be underneath my name. I could do that by adding another layout inside. Let's try that out too. So go back to my design view, and now I have, if you notice, I have my welcome text view, my name text view. Let's add in some kind of edit text, something that allows me to enter some details. I want to kind of enter in. Here's my text fields. Instead of plain text, I want to add in a person's name, right? Or some kind of entry control, right? There's number and so on. You can see that there's email and a bunch of different ones. I want my person name to be in there, so and I kind of pass in my person's name, and I want to put this underneath the other one, right? There it is, name. And you can see that there's a little line that comes up because now it says edit text. Edit text is the way we know that we're actually adding in something. On the left-hand side, notice that there's something that looks like you can put in a little cursor. That's the difference between a plain text that we added in earlier, right? And an edit text. Edit text allows us to edit the value, right? So that's why it has this little value right here. It's not AB. AB tells us that it's a label, right? On the left-hand side, if you have this little symbol, it means that it's something that we can enter in, right? All right, so we're going to rename this thing, so we might as well go back into the ID value, right, for it. There's my ID value somewhere in here. And let's put in name edit text. Name edit text. Basics, right? Right, and the default where it says name, right? Notice how there's a name default that just pops up here, right? Well, where is that coming from? It's coming from the text that's in here, right? And again, it says it's a hard-coded value. If I hover over it, it even tells you it's hard-coded value. You should probably name this thing. Let's add it in as a resource. Enter your name. So we're going to add in a new resource, new string value, and we're going to say, enter name, and enter your name.
We already created that.
Enter name would be one, but enter your name is something else I'm putting. So enter your name is what we called it before. Oh, and if it, oh, you're right. How about just
Why don't we just use the same
name? No, we could, but yeah, I could. Yeah. Let's do that. Why not? You're right. Enter name. So if I look at the enter names up here and press OK, then it's enter your name down here. It's a placeholder value. I want to make the text color and everything else the same color, so we're going to align to the theme. So I'm going to click on the project colors, which are going to be the color primary text. And from a text size, I don't want it to be just quite as big as my label. It's pretty big. In fact, maybe this label is a little bit too big. This enter your name label, and I want to change that as well. But I want to go change the text size to maybe 20 SP, something like that. So it's a little bit smaller. So here's my text size, and I'm going to change that value, add a new value in here, and we'll say, I don't know, edit text, app edit text, app edit text, right? So all edit texts are going to be like 20 SP. There we go. There it is, 20 SP, and then this would be your value, your thing. So if I run this thing, this little app now, I have a couple of values. Let's keep going with our little demo. I want to add in another layout. Like I said, I want to have a linear layout with a couple of buttons, OK, cancel, or submit, or something like that, right? So let's do that. Let's first we need another layout type. So I'm going to go back to layout, and instead of adding in a vertical linear layout, I want to make it a horizontal linear layout. So I'm going to kind of put that in there, horizontal linear layout, and it's not going. How come? If I put it up here, if I go actually to horizontal linear layout, this one, and I put it at the top, right, it kind of goes to the bottom, right? That's how you can do it. So it adds it onto the bottom of the stack. So there's my linear layout. Notice that it takes up a fair amount of space down here. Okay, cool. If I look at my text, what it's actually doing is doing one of these. Here's my linear layout. It's inside the other one, right? It's nested inside the other layout. And notice that the orientation, Android orientation, is horizontal. And I'm using match parent for my layout width and height. I don't have to do that. I can specify a width and a height, right? If I want to, I can change the size that I have left over. But in here, what I want to do is I want to put in some buttons. I want to put in some buttons, right, inside my linear layout. So here's my linear layout, and I want to put some buttons. I want to drag and drop buttons here on the left-hand side in design view. So if I go back to my different buttons, right, there's a small button. Just take a regular button. There it is. I'm going to drag that in here, right? There's my new button. So we're going to make this the OK button and the cancel button on this side, right? That's typically how we do it. So let's use my text button text. I want to change this to a new. I hate when I do that. Change this to a new resource. We're going to say OK button. OK button text, right? So we're going to new resource, new string value. We're just running here like really crazy, right? OK button, and our resource value again is OK. Right? Press this. There it is. That's pretty small. I'm not pretty happy with that. So the text size, I want to at least make the text size as big as of this part. Let's say or something like 30. So we'll say button text or button text size, right? We'll make that app button size or something like that. App button text size. New resource. So we'll call it for all app buttons. App button text size. We'll make that so that it's the text size is like 30 SP. Pretty big. There we go. There's our OK button. And I want to add another button, but I want it to be on this side of my layout, right? So I want to put another button on this side. Let's drag it in first, right? So I'm going to take another button. Hey, what about if I copied my button? What if I copied this button and I put it over on this side? Right, here's my OK button. Is that possible? Can I do that? Here's my OK button. I got both my OK buttons. I've copied one to the other. Those are cool. But I want it over here. If I drag it over here, can it work? No. Oh, I can do it. Right? So I want to put my linear layout, but I want to put my button stacked on the right-hand side. What do? Align parent right. Right? I can still do that. So let's see if that works. They're aligned next to each other, these two buttons. But I want to make this button the cancel button. Right? So notice that they're both called button and button 2, right? Button 1 has no ID. That's why I did it this way. So if you look at the ID, I want to call this the OK button. So let's rename that OK button. Right, there we are. And this one will be the cancel button, right? So we don't have that. Here's my ID cancel button. I'm saying I have my layout, OK and cancel, and I got to change my my text value because my text value is OK. That's not right. So the text for my button can't be the OK button. It's got to be the cancel button. So new resource, cancel button. Go and then make that cancel and press OK. And there's OK cancel. I want to take that cancel button and put it to the right. And if I don't know how to do that, I can certainly go. Well, let's see if we can do it on this side here, right? So notice that we have something called a layout gravity, right? Okay, here's something that we can do. There's gravity and layout gravity. Layout gravity is for where I lay out my object. Gravity is how the object aligns within itself, whether it's center aligned or whatever, right? So if I go layout gravity to the right, right, then you would expect that this would move over, right? Notice how nothing happens, right? And again, we talked about this because what I have in here is it's a linear layout with almost like columns, right? What I want to do is I want to skip from my middle column to the column on the right. That's what I really want to do. So uncheck that. Here's my layout margin, my layout weight, and so on. And here's my gravity. So there's a difference between gravity and layout gravity. If I go right with the layout gravity, the whole thing goes to the right, right? See how I moved everything to the right? That's because I put gravity to the inside of this whole thing, not layout gravity, right? But that means everything moves to the right, including my my OK button, right? I don't want that. Yeah.
Could you just put gravity to just the cancel button?
Yeah, I could. Right. Right now, I'm just using this whole layout, right, that I'm clicking on right now. So let me undo that for a second. But if I click on the cancel button itself, right, and if I put gravity on the cancel button, even if I click right, as an example, gravity doesn't do anything for the cancel button itself. Right. If I put layout gravity for the cancel button, so go back to that area where it says layout gravity. Notice how I don't have a layout gravity option inside my cancel button. I only have a gravity option, right? Here I have gravity. Here I have gravity. Here I have layout gravity. On your cancel button? Maybe I missed it.
So the layout properties are at the top.
I'll be all right. Layout gravity. If I put layout gravity to the right, no effect because of my linear layout, right? But one thing I have is I have my my layout weight. And this is where I can change my, if I change my weight to, I don't know, 2, as an example, and click away, notice how my layout weight, what does layout weight 2 seem to do? It's almost like I span 2 columns, right? So layout weight of 1 spans 1 column, layout weight of 2 spans 2 columns, and so on. So I can make my buttons different sizes if I want to. Like, for example, if I was making my calculator and I wanted to make my final calculation by my equals button 2 button sizes, it would be just like this. Right? All right, so how do I make it so that it skips to the other side, right? That's what I really wanted to do. So let's go take this value away and skip down to see if there's anything else that I could put in here, right? Enabled, I can enable disable. And I can also choose my height. I can choose my label for my lines, maximum height, maximum width. Here's my on-click that I could do. By the way, you could do, remember we did on-click with our, in code, we did on-click. But you can actually do on-click with your layout as well, built into your layout. It's kind of a silly. I don't prefer that. I prefer to do things with code. Okay, so what else? Text alignment, text color, whatever. What if I wanted to move this over relative to my other button, right? So here's, I'm going to click this, and I'm going to try and move this over to this other column over here, right? So see how I can't seem to do that because of my column layout, right? Because I have my 3 column, it's almost like a 3 column layout that I got in here. Anyone have a solution for me? Yes.
Margins.
Margins for my button?
Yes.
Okay, so because the button is an actual object itself. So if you're talking about if I go back to margins, right? So that's that margin value that we saw on the top, right? Where is it here?
It's just the top.
Sorry, at the top?
The top layout version.
I'm just not saying, oh, here, I'm right here. Yeah, but so you're saying if I click onto the right, my layout margin to the left, but I want it to the left is what I want, right? So if I and I can specify a value like SP, an SP or a DP, is that what you're saying? So if I still do something like 20 DP, is that what you're thinking? That it'll move over? Yeah, that's cool, but
the right margin 0 DP.
Okay, let's try that as well. So if I say my right margin is 0 DP, right? That's not going to do anything, right?
Wow.
No, left is, I'm making it to the left of this one, but I really want it to hug the right. That's what I really want it to do, right? And I know that I don't want it to be a specific value. There's a way of doing it so that if I can specify how many column span that I have this thing, I want to have a space of a column between, yeah.
Where are you specifying that there's 3 columns in there?
Sorry? I think there's a default of how it's going to try and lay them out as many. I can put as many buttons in here as I want right now, and it'll try and lay them one next to the other, yeah.
Could you make the left margin 0 DP and then set up the layout weight?
I could. So you're saying that if I go left margin 0 DP, is that what you're saying? 0 DP, and then the layout weight of this one, I can say this to whatever I want?
So like 1,
Okay.
2, rather. Oh, no, wait a second.
It's not going to change that. Right? No, if what they're talking about is correct. If I said something like 30 dp, then it would move it over. But see that even 30 dp is not exactly what I want. I want it to hug the right version. So again, let's check it out. So let's say move up button to right, of linear layout, Android, right? And then how to align a button to the most right corner in linear layout, which is what they're asking for. And well, that's I believe you could add a view between your second image view and your button and set it up to layout width of 0 and layout weight of 1. Oh, that's it.
Blank space.
Yeah, so basically you're putting in a view and some kind of a view as a trick. It's almost like a spacer.
It's like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but that makes sense that you would do this. What they're suggesting is, in this particular one, is in between these two, add another view, right? Some kind of, I don't know, text view. So here's a, I don't know, plain, some kind of,
Isn't there
like
a
a-
line where I can cancel button?
there is, but that doesn't, it's not going to work though, right? So let's say, for example, I put in a, just a plain text view here, and I put it in the middle of one, between one and the other, there it is. And that would write, and then notice for this one, what they're saying is you put your layout width, right, as an example, instead of wrap content, you make it 0, right? And then, but your layout weight, your layout weight would be 1, right? So that way it would push it over to the side. Right, so this would be invisible. You want to get, you're just putting in a view, some kind of view in here altogether, right? And layout weight of 1 would push to the right-hand side. So something like that would be the trick, right? Anyone else have another solution? But no, it's still showing my object here, right? Because I don't want it to show my object. I mean, I could remove the text value in there altogether, right? So my text value says new text. I can just take it away. So you can't see it. Yeah. Yeah.
How would you make the OK button the same width? Like to align to the size of cancel button?
Oh, that's easy. So right now, my OK button is wrap parent, wrap content, right? What I could do is I can make it a fixed width, right? So for example, instead of wrap content for my width, I could specify a width.
Get the width from the cancel button?
Yeah, like is there like an actual like equal width?
From a code perspective is what you're saying, right? Yeah, there isn't anything like that. I mean, I would have to specify a width. If I go system width, I mean these are the system widths I have, a thumbnail or a dialogue
Pretty sure
minimum
you
width.
can, like, you can access the value by doing like add ID,
No,
cancel button, yeah. I think I've done that.
well you can try. But let's say, for example, I want my cancel and my OK button to be the same size, and let's say I estimate this cancel button to be something like 60 dp or something like that, right? So like I could do something like this. I just put in a value, and I can make it a resource later on, right? So I could do something like 60 dp, sorry, sp, with a value, with a weight, a layout weight of 1, right? So I could make a layout weight of 1. 60 dp, and I could change that so that my buttons all wrap the same. 60 xp, I mean, that's what I'm saying. With a layout, and I just specify a layout weight of 1, so that way it's good. And if this is too big, I can play with that value. So maybe it's 80 sp. There we go. So that's probably what the right value is. 80 sp for my button. Yeah.
If you just make it wrap content and then make a layout weight of 1 for both, you could actually make some equal.
Okay, we can try that too. So let's say wrap content. Wrap content. We'll make this wrap content as well.
That seems to work.
And a layout weight of 1. This is a layout weight of 1.
There's a left margin.
That's for the, oh, this part, yeah. We tried to put that in. That was kind of a problem. And this one has no left margin, right? So we're okay. Still not quite the right size, but closer. Make sense? Again, you can lay things out. Yes.
Actually, I think you should set the layout of each button to 0 dB.
Yeah.
But then it would be like
So
this,
you're gonna
right?
have to use the weight.
Yeah, you need the weight though,
Yeah.
and it'll make them equal.
Wait, what did I do? Match parent. Sorry, match parent.
That's the layer.
Yes. And sorry, so you said this, make the layout width is
0 dB for each of them.
right, but then
Next to
Which is something else. There's 0 DP, and here's 0 DP. I did do that with a text view.
But then it has to be something with that height.
Nope. Well, they're equal size, but the cancel button has
Or
just
you
bigger
Make
text.
the layout weight like 1.5, yeah.
I don't think you can do that.
1.5, yeah. And then cancel 1.5 as well. Oh,
Nice try. I like your thinking. I like your thinking.
It's too big.
How's that? Remember that there's a number of columns in here, right? That allow to do that. So there's how we did it. We have a kind of a faux number in here, and then we can do our OK cancel. All right, so this is the first part. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, what I want to do is when I press the OK button, I want to get us to a new intent. I want to get a new screen, right? I want to get, so this first part was just a kind of a review of layouts and everything else and how to do stuff. My next piece is when I click on the OK button, it opens up a new activity that takes us to the next screen. Okay, so let's take a short break, 10 minutes, and we'll come back and do that.
Do you want to get